Hi, everybody. Welcome to third grade book talks. We are here today to share with you some of the books that are on your suggested reading list since you'll be going into third grade next year. So today we have with us Miss Annie Hawkeiser and Miss Heidi Zeibig. I'm Nancy Sheehan, and we're going to be sharing some of the suggested reading list books with you. And we're also inviting you to sign up for and participate in the 2020 summer reading program, Imagine Your Story. So we hope that we're going to see plenty of you this summer, and that you'll participate in some of our programs, and that you'll read lots. So without further ado, we're going to get rolling and tell you about some of the exciting reads that are on your reading list. Miss Annie, would you like to kick us off here?
I would love to, Miss Nancy. Thank you.
You're
Hi, guys.
welcome.
I'm Miss Annie, and the first book that I want to tell you about is Dragons in a Bag by Zetta Elliott. So when Jackson here is sent to spend the day with the mean old lady in his apartment building that his mother calls Ma, and he thinks is his grandmother, he's in for a couple surprises. Firstly, he finds out that Ma is not actually his grandmother. And second, he finds out that Ma is actually a witch. And she's a witch that needs Jax's help. She is trying to deliver baby dragons to a magical world where they will be safe. And now there's two important rules when it comes to these dragons. Don't let them out of the bag, and don't feed them anything sweet. Before he knows it, Jax and his two friends, Vikram and Kadava, have broken the rules. So now we have to find out if Jax is going to actually be able to get the baby dragons delivered safe and sound, or will they be lost in Brooklyn forever? So to find out, you'll have to check out Dragons in a Bag by Zetta Elliott, and there's also a sequel that is out now, The Dragon Thief. And this is a great one for fantasy lovers, and it's also a fantasy that's set in New York City as well, which is really nice because normally I think of fantasy and I think of, maybe Hogwarts or Narnia. So this is really cool because it's actually in a city that we might know, similar to Boston or something like that. So check out Dragons in a Bag for more.
My first book is from the Funny Kids series, Funny Kid for President by Matt Stanton. It all begins with poop in the classroom storeroom. Student Max Wolber is immediately blamed for this by his terrifyingly oversized teacher, Mr. Armstrong. Tensions between these two hit an all-time high. While walking home with his best friend, Hugo, Max plots revenge on Mr. Armstrong. He wants to fill his desk drawer with worms. But the next day, Max's arch rival, Abby Purcell, overhears Max's worm plot and tells Mr. Armstrong. Darn it, said Max. Max believes that if Darth Vader and Voldemort had a daughter, it would be Abby Purcell. The principal, Mrs. Sniggles, wants to see everyone in her office, and she suggests that Max needs to focus on something else. So she suggests he runs for president against some other classmates. So Max tries to come up with a platform to win this election. So he said, I know, I'll cancel Thursdays. Kids will love that. Or we'll have burping contests to settle disputes in the classroom. Unfortunately for Max, the competition does much better with their platforms. Then one day, this crazy duck comes running up to Max. Max has seen it before. He believes the duck is evil, and he has it out for Max. So he comes running in the classroom, chasing Hugo and Max, and the whole classroom is laughing hysterically. From that moment, he becomes the funny kid for president and runs on that platform. So this summer, laugh a lot by reading the Funny Kids series by Matt Stanton.
I'm going to tell you about another series that is on your summer reading list, and it's kind of it's a little bit of a different series because instead of getting to know familiar characters, what this series does is it introduces you to stories behind history and why things are the way they are and how things happened. But this isn't some regular, dry, boring history book. The name of this series is called You Wouldn't Want to. And so what this bunch of books does is it tells you the story about, for instance, the Boston Tea Party, which I think is very useful because here we are in Boston where that whole event happened. So it'll tell you about all these events, but it'll tell you the bad parts about them and what was really sometimes gross or dangerous, but it's always suspenseful. And so if you like stories, and if you like history, and if you like things that can be a little dangerous or a little gross, you might want to check out this series. And you might want to even start off with something that happened here in Massachusetts. So take a look and check out the You Wouldn't Want to Be series, because there's a lot of these books and they teach you about all sorts of history.
I have a series to tell you about that's great if you love really wacky and funny stories. This is the Inspector Flytrap series, and I'll be talking about the first book, Inspector Flytrap in the Da Vinci Code. And this is by Tom Engelberger and illustrated by C.C. Bell. Have you ever heard of a crime-solving plant? Now you have. Meet Inspector Flytrap, who is a potted Venus flytrap who solves big deal mysteries with the help of his cranky and skeptical friend, Nina the goat. She's a goat, by the way. And she also pushes Inspector Flytrap all around town on a skateboard, because he's in a pot, he can't walk, of course, so they can solve all of their big deal mysteries, like who ate the famous Da Vinci painting, the Mona Spaghetti? So you have to follow Inspector Flytrap on his quest to become the greatest private eye ever grown in Tom Engelberger's Inspector Flytrap series.
Oh, wow. Whoops. I have a short book of poetry by Jack Proletsky. It's a new one called The Swamps of Sleep, Poems from Beyond the Solar System. These poems take place in not-so-friendly worlds. They're scary and funny, and there's a game actually involved in it where planets' names are anagrams, and you can try and figure them out. But mostly it's a wild ride around an imaginary universe, stopping at many different planets along the way. All of the creatures have some special force that will kill you. So why visit them? Let's visit the bugs of Gub. Just a minute. The bugs of Gub, no two alike, are all designed to swiftly strike. They'll swarm upon your tender skin and grow your nose and chomp your skin. They'll mercilessly, relentlessly things with dreadful venom in their stings. They'll land on you with jaws agape, and soon you'll find there's no escape. The bugs of Gub will bite and chew until there's nothing left of you, not even the remotest trace on Gub, your final resting place. For more deliciously wonderful poems, read The Swamps of Sleep by Jack Proletsky.
A common theme in a lot of kids' books is the kid that might not be having such a great time at school, and some of the kids that might be struggling at school. So if sometimes you find that, you have arguments with other students, or you have a teacher that, maybe you don't relate to really well, you might want to give this series a try. This series is called Squish, Super Amoeba. Squish goes to school, but Squish, as you can tell, he's not just any kid. He is an amoeba. And in Squish's world and in Squish's school, we have bullies. We have the overbearing school principal. We have detention. We have his friends Piggy and Pod, and they're always getting in trouble, and they're always trying to do the right thing. And only as a super amoeba can Squish save the student body and his friends and the world from all the evils that lurk in a school environment. To find out, read Schoolish. And this is just the first of that series.
Another series. We have a lot of series today for you. So if you're a big series reader, you have come to the right place for these suggestions. The next thing I want to tell you about is Just Grace by Therese Miracle Harper. And Grace Stewart gets stuck with the name Just Grace because she is one of 3 other Graces in her class. And Grace just really wants to stand out and be different. And she is pretty different than the other kids. For example, Grace considers herself to have a teeny tiny superpower, and she thinks she can sense when someone else is unhappy. For example, she can sense that her neighbor, Mrs. Luther, is a little unhappy. And Mrs. Luther recently fell off a ladder and broke her leg. I'd be a little unhappy too if that happened to me. And when Mrs. Luther fell off this ladder, she almost accidentally crushed her beloved pet cat named Crinkles. And Crinkles is now a little bit frightened after that, and he's a little afraid of Mrs. Luther and her bright orange cast that she has. So Just Grace decides that she's going to try to cheer Mrs. Luther up. And the way she wants to do this is by sending her postcards, and she's going to pretend that Crinkles the cat wrote the postcards to Mrs. Luther. But the same day that Grace sends the postcards, Crinkles the kitty goes missing, and her postcards are mistaken as ransom notes, and they think someone has stolen Crinkles. So we'll have to find out if Grace is going to be able to find Crinkles and set things right again. So you can find out in Therese Miracle Harper's funny story with just a little bit of mystery, Just Grace. And there are other books in this series that you can check out as well if you like the first one.
I love those. Do you like animals and Greek mythology? Then you might just love Zeus the Mighty, Conquest for the Golden Fleas by Crispin Boyer. Welcome to Mount Olympus Pet Store, which sits high on a hill in Athens, Georgia. Rescued pets are named after Greek gods. Zeus is a hamster, and he rules the kingdom, along with Athena the cat, Demeter the cricket, Ares the dog, and Poseidon the pufferfish. All the animals have mystic powers and collect artifacts that help them on their adventure. They wear togas, helmets, crowns, but humans can't see them. It's tough being a king of the gods, thinks Zeus. And one day, Poseidon questions Zeus's ability to rule. So Zeus proposes a quest to find the golden fleas to prove himself worthy to be king. They run into toilet whirlpools, a robot vacuum cleaner named Argo, and golden fleas. It's a story of adventure, Greek mythology, and friendship. So read Zeus the Mighty, book 1 in the new series by Crispin Boyer. The second one I think has just come out, and there's a third one due out in the fall. It's good.
Another series that is on your summer reading list features a young investigator named Claire. And Claire lives over the town library with her mother and her grandmother. And, well, her business isn't doing all that well until she meets her new partner. And now she wasn't looking for a new partner, but as it turns out, Claire happens to be a little clairvoyant. And that means that she can see ghosts. Now, little did other people know that over the library lives a ghost named Kaz. Now, Claire can see Kaz, And the two of them very quickly strike a deal for her services because Kaz has been separated from his beloved family. He's been separated from his mother and his father and his dog. They're all ghosts. And he wants Claire's services to help unite his family again because he doesn't know where they went. All he knows is they got whisked out of the library, and now he doesn't know where they are. So he asks her for help. So this is the first volume of the series, The Haunted Library. So if you like ghosts, and if you like mysteries, if you like books about investigators, you might want to check this one out.
The next book I want to tell you about is a great one if you like to laugh. If you like laughing, and if you like poetry, you'll definitely want to check out this book of poetry, Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. And this has long poems, short poems, in-between poems, and you don't have to read them all in order either. You'll meet lots of quirky characters in these different poems. You might run into a boy who turns into a TV set. You might run into a girl who eats a whale. And you might see some shoes flying. You might see someone trying to get rid of their sister. And you might even see a crocodile visiting the dentist. So you can find out what wild and quirky things happen when the sidewalk ends in Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein.
That's so good. Okay. 11 Experiments That Failed by Jenny Offel. It's the scientific process you will never forget. Our creative scientist presents 11 experiments, each with a question, a hypothesis, supplies, and conclusions. For example, question, can you wash dishes in a clothes washer? Question, can you use a piece of bologna as a frisbee? And question, can a message be sent in a bottle to a faraway land using the hole in the bottom of the toilet? Warning, this book may cause strange smells and weeks of extra chores. But most importantly, it's the idea that failures are necessary and part of the scientific process. So good luck. Don't blow up your kitchen. Take a look at this book. 11 Experiments That Failed by Jenny Offel.
Our final book for this session is about a young dog named Rigsy. And Rigsy belongs to Henry Huggins, and Henry found Rigsy when he was just a pup, and he's named Rigsy because he was so skinny. And so, Henry took Rigsy home, but what he found very quickly was that Rigsy likes to get into a little bit of trouble. And so some of the things that Rigsy is known for is getting muddy and dirty and being very curious and inquisitive. And so one day, Henry and his mom needed to go out to the mall real quick. And so, Rigsy just jumped into the car with them. And it being a new car, Mrs. Huggins was not really happy that Rigsy and his muddy paws and his disgustingness was all over all the new car seats. So they all ran into the mall together to do their errand, leaving Rigsy in the car by himself. And Rigsy discovered, because he is a curious little guy, he discovered the power windows. And he was able to open up one of the windows, and you know what? Outside the car, there's all sorts of great smells. What dog doesn't want to be out in the great outdoors, sniffing around a parking lot at a mall where maybe somebody's been dropping their McDonald's on the ground? Oh my gosh. Rigsy couldn't help himself. He just jumped out of the car. Well, find out Rigsy and Henry are ever reunited after Ribsy's impromptu mall shopping trip of his very own in Rigsy by Beverly Cleary. And again, this is one of several books about Henry and his friends Ramona and Beezus and Rigsy himself. And so we encourage you to read lots this summer because there's plenty for you to read. And we also encourage you to participate in our summer reading program, Imagine Your Story at Beebe Library. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Happy reading.
Bye.
Hi, everybody.
Bye.